Welcome everyone to our stock investment case on Nvidia. Here today we have one of our student analysts and community leader, Erin. And this is meant to show you more of the deep level research and professional skills that professional analysts on Wall Street apply when it comes to determining if a stock is overvalued, undervalued, or fairly priced. So with that being said, Erin, how are you?
Hi everyone, my name is Erin. I'm currently a freshman at Baruch College with the intended major of finance. I'm also part of Baruch's investment management group, where we manage $830,000 and we pitch long-term stocks. I'm an analyst and community leader at Romero Mentoring, as Mr. Romero mentioned earlier. I'm super excited to be here with you today to talk about Nvidia.
Great, thank you for your introduction. So the way we're gonna do this, as our usual process, is first go over the situation overview on Nvidia, what's been happening, what's the sentiment of other analysts, go over the industry, and of course, come up with a price target based on Erin's analysis. So let's come here to our slide. And here is your investment overview. So what can you tell me in terms of the overall situation? How has the stock been performing year to date? And then we can go deeper into the reasons behind that.
Yeah, so let me just give you a quick background on Nvidia, just because I feel like their company's story is super important. So Nvidia was actually founded in 1993. They are known for its graphic processing units, also known as GPUs, and they are the leading manufacturer for these GPUs. They developed integrated circuits, which are used in PCs and also gaming consoles, and they started to gain a lot of recognition for these circuits. You know, in 2000, they even partnered up with Microsoft for their graphic cards for their Xbox. And I feel like from the beginning, or even the early years of the companies, Nvidia had a really strong profile. You know, they've had that clout. You know, since then, we've seen them partner up with companies like Neo, Amazon, Facebook, Google, Tesla, and they all use Nvidia's graphic cards in a lot of their projects. Okay. So yeah, their revenue can be broken down into two main categories. So their graphics and their compute and networking. Their graphics segment is really their GPUs for gaming and PCs. Their compute networking, which I'm super excited about, is really on Nvidia's data center, which is used for AI, high performance computing, and also accelerated computing. And this is super important because I believe that this segment will continue to grow as people look towards crypto mining, AI, cloud computing, and even autonomous driving. So over the past few months, we talked a lot about this recently. We've seen a pullback or market correction on tech stocks as people are shifting from growth stocks in the tech sector to value stocks in financial, energy, and also the industrial sector. So since then, the tech sector has been recovering slowly, and I feel like a good part of that is because of the stimulus. And last week, we actually saw Nvidia hit its all-time high at $648. And last week, they announced some really cool collaborations. They're working with transportation companies, and they will be using AI-based autonomous vehicles. And they also partnered up with Cloudera, and they are collaborating on accelerating AI with data analytics and with the cloud. So that's super exciting for them.
Okay. So thank you for that concise overview on the business. Now tell me a little bit more in terms of their performance year to date, because you mentioned tech has definitely been under pressure because of the sector rotation and perhaps higher interest rates as the market was anticipating, but they're up 17%, give or take, where other high growth stocks have been underperforming. So what do you think is the main reasons why Nvidia is up 17% year to date?
I feel like a huge part of it is the industries that Nvidia is part of. So they're mainly prominent in the gaming industry. And I feel like as more people shifted from work at home environments since the coronavirus, a lot more people have free times and they're looking towards gaming as their form of entertainment. Not just that, but we've seen an uprise in people looking towards crypto, how they can even mine cryptos. Yeah. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later when we look at the equity research report from RBC, but we've seen a lot of people interested in NFTs and things related to crypto. So over the past 2 quarters, I want to quote the CEO here. He said that Q4 was another record quarter. capping a breakout year for Nvidia's computing platforms. So their revenue for the fourth quarter ending January 31st, 2021 of $5 billion, they were up 61% from $3.1 billion from last year. And they're up 6% from the previous quarter. So I feel like as more people are looking towards gaming and their compute and networking center, their data center platforms, it will continue to grow because there's a huge demand for this.
Yeah, I mean, those are large numbers. I mean, up 5 billion, up 61% year over year, and then company full year revenue 16.6 billion, up 50. Yeah, and you're saying basically a lot of this is coming on the back of higher processing, autonomous driving vehicles, and also crypto mining. How much of revenue growth is really coming from crypto mining? Do they disclose that information? Do they break it out in their full statement financial reports?
No, they don't. So part of it is what I mentioned earlier. So half of it is from their GPUs, their main revenue generator, and then the other half is really from their compute and networking, but that's grouped with AI and even autonomous vehicles. They did release a lot of processors for crypto mining recently, but I feel like it's hard to tell because a lot of people are reselling it for a lot of money. So yeah.
Okay, I see. And also in terms of Wall Street analyst sentiment, I see mostly optimistic. And of course, you have price target for Barclays. Let me get rid of this. Barclays 600, RBC 610, and Credit Suisse 620. I think the stock is already trading around this area, but what's the reason behind the uptick in optimism from these analysts?
Yeah, so they all believe that Nvidia will outperform the market. You know, I had research reports from Barclays, RBC, and Credit Suisse, and they were all published in February of this year when Nvidia was actually consolidating and trading almost near their all-time high before the market correction. So a lot of these research reports focused on the different industries, and I really liked how each bank was actually focusing on something else. So for example, Barclays had a price target of $600 and they were focusing on really the gaming and crypto industry. Credit Suisse, they focused a lot on AI. And then RBC, they were focusing a lot on decentralized finance and also NFTs. So I feel like all of these banks are super optimistic about Nvidia. And in February, I believe they were trading at around maybe $500 and they had a price target of 600, which is a good upside.
Okay, good. And then I also see here you have a section for the industry environment. Can you just give me a simple summary of what's your take on the industry in general? Yeah,
so Nvidia is part of multiple industries. Their main one, gaming, I feel like that is going to continue to grow as more people are looking towards maybe streaming, for example, on Twitch or YouTube or Facebook, computing and networking, for example, AI, for crypto mining and autonomous vehicles. There's a huge demand for this right now. For AI, I feel like all these emerging techs are super hot. They're super popular right now. And I feel like Nvidia definitely has a stepping stone for this. So
yeah, okay, good. And then lastly, price target and valuation. So obviously for our education portfolio, you have a buy recommendation with 620 as your price target, then 710. How are you coming up with the 710? Is this part of your upside scenario, upside case?
So my upside case has a price target of $800, but I didn't really think that it was going to jump directly from 620 to $800. So I kind of had a price between that, so 710, before it even hits that $800. Okay.
And then you apply DCF analysis, sales multiples. Okay. All right. Yeah. Good. Let's go a little bit more in depth into the slides that you put together here. So obviously Barclays, RBC. What was the most interesting take or investment thesis from each one of these analysts that caught your attention?
I think the most interesting one was definitely from RBC, just because I'm personally super interested in crypto and NFTs, and they wrote an entire research report on this, and I wasn't even expecting it since NFTs really became popular in February, March of this year. So they had an entire equity research report on this, and they're already ahead of the curve. Like they saw this coming and they wrote about how it will impact Nvidia. So that was definitely interesting. I can talk more about that in a little bit.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm actually interested in learning more about NFTs. I know there's been some art. I think the first one was sold for several $1 million. I was just blown away. How is this thing getting such a high valuation and someone actually buying? What's the technology behind that? Or is it that, this is a special moment in history that perhaps 50, 100 years from now, everything that's happening right now, the first assets, digital assets that get to be sold, it's going to be on the record books. And maybe people are paying for that just to add their name in history and where we're going to be 50 or 100 years from now. So that's just a different perspective that would perhaps help me understand why they're paying such ridiculous valuation on some of these new technologies that are coming out. I mean, I don't know much about it, so hopefully you can explain that to me a little bit better. What about with Credit Suisse and RBC? Did you find anything interesting also from their reports, or not really? They're just focusing more on their current operations, on the current business, and they're not looking much at any new type of emerging technologies?
So Barclays and Credit Suisse, they were both looking towards emerging tech. So Credit Suisse was focusing on AI, and then Barclays was focusing on gaming and crypto. I feel like these two weren't that big of a deal, if you would say, because it is already known for Nvidia. So it was just kind of like a continuation.
Okay, good, thanks. So let's continue here. So these were your research reports, just from where you got your source and you got to understand a little bit more about them. Good, good. Okay, so you have your investment thesis. So I'm interested to learn more about this thesis right here. So you have 3 points. Walk me through these points. Why are you bullish really on NVIDIA? And I know you mentioned that on the situation overview, but help perhaps our viewers understand a little bit more where your investment thesis or drivers is really coming from.
Yeah, so I performed a DCF analysis on Nvidia, and I was actually bullish on this stock. They had really strong financial profile. They had really high revenue growth, and they were actually leading in their industry. I was comparing Nvidia to a lot of their competitors, and I feel like one of their main edge was really the collaborations that they had. So their main competitor is AMD, and I feel like AMD, they do have a lot of GPUs. However, they are lowered they sell these products at a lower price compared to Nvidia. And I feel like Nvidia, with their collaborations, with the name recognition, they are going to be trading at higher levels. They are going to experience larger financial growth. And I feel like for the next quarter, their revenue is definitely going to increase, especially with the hype around crypto, NFTs, and crypto mining, and just kind of things like that.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So let's see here. So company profile slide. $388 billion enterprise value. It's a big number. Wow. Okay. Company segment, GPUs, the Tegra, main products, graphic cards, computing, inside NVIDIA fulfillment. Wow. So they have their own. So they have their own fulfillment center. I know Amazon had their own fulfillment center. We've done our own case study on Amazon, and I was very impressed with the level of coordination and how technology really helps them find any product in their warehouse facility. And they're basically using their own autonomous robots that knows how to track and sort out all of the products. It's amazing. It's like a valet being orchestrated by AI of robots in a warehouse. So that's interesting. And I'm glad you're putting this over here as well. So it helps me understand how NVIDIA also runs their fulfillment center and warehouse. I mean, I'm a very visual person, so seeing this definitely gives me a little bit more insight into how they do things. Okay. Now, in terms of financial performance, revenue growth, double digit. So this decline in 2020, this is interesting. So 2020, it's a decline. Why did revenue decline by 7%?
I was also expecting revenue to definitely increase just because, we saw a lot of people looking towards gaming and things like that. But it could be because maybe people weren't making enough money to really buy a lot of these NVIDIA products. Like I mentioned before, comparing NVIDIA to their competitors, their they're slightly higher price than their competitors. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go down to the stock chart, industry overview, the size. Okay. What about any disruption to their supply chain, right? Because when we had COVID at the beginning of it, in March, when the US went into full lockdown, did you read or did you find any piece of information relating to their supply chain? How did COVID impacted their ability to fulfill their orders, right? Or where it was coming from? Was there any major really disruption to their supply chain, number one? And secondly, have they been able to essentially start picking that back up? In other words, have they been able to get back into full swing and scale up their supply chain again?
Yeah, so there's currently a global shortage of semiconductors, chips that Nvidia actually uses a lot in their products. I feel like this is good and bad for Nvidia. On one end, you have Nvidia working on autonomous driving, and I feel like we use a lot of these semiconductors in these vehicles, and some companies they actually had to halt their productions because of these shortages. But so I actually have a quote here from MarketWatch. So the chip shortage effectively crippling the auto industry illustrates the worst effects of the phenomenon as crucial parts to produce finished cars and trucks are unavailable and causing automated manufacturers to halt production. So I feel like that's not really the stage for Nvidia yet, but it could be just because Nvidia is partnering up with companies like NIO and also Tesla. But overall, I feel like Nvidia still has an edge over their competitors because they're so well diverse. And we've seen a lot of their GPUs going for higher price because people are reselling this. So even though there's a shortage of semiconductors, the demand is still high and people are willing to pay at a very high price for their products.
Okay. Interesting. Do you know where most of their supply chain is? Is it based in Asia or do they have their own infrastructure in the US as well?
I think it is based in Asia. I know they have headquarters in California, but I think most of it does come from Asia.
Okay. Now, when talking about NFTs, how big of a role does that actually play in Nvidia and their stock price?
So NFTs is basically digital artworks that you can collect, not just artworks, but maybe even video clips. In the past few months, we saw the CEO of Twitter actually sell one of his tweets as an NFT for millions of dollars, which is insane. Yeah. So in order to buy these NFTs, you need crypto, especially Ethereum, because a lot of these NFTs, they run on the Ethereum blockchain. So I feel like more people are buying NVIDIA processing units, these mining processing units, just to mine Ethereum. There's definitely a high demand. I'm not too sure if people are mining Ethereum just for themselves or specifically for NFTs, but I do think that it is correlated.
Okay, interesting. Okay. Now let's take a look at your financial model. So here we have the income statement. I can see what you're projecting for 2021, revenue to be 22.1 billion, then 24, 27, all the way to 30 billion by 2026. So these are large numbers. They're profitable. What's your revenue growth rate? Okay, so in the first 3 years of your model, so you're projecting double-digit growth, 32% this year, 11%, 11.5, and then single digit. So this is interesting that you have lower revenue growth in the later years of your model. What's the reasoning behind this?
Yeah, so I feel like NVIDIA in the next few years are going to be well versed in a lot of these different emerging tech industries, like blockchain, AI. We've talked about this already, but I feel like as NVIDIA continues to grow, I feel like their revenue is definitely going to slow down because there's just so much that they can do and there's so much room, so much upside to their revenue. So I feel like the larger NVIDIA gets, the harder it will be for them to maintain that high revenue growth. They're still growing at 3% in, I believe, 2023, 2024. But I think it will slow down just because the wiggle room for them to grow significantly is going to be way smaller.
Okay, okay. I think something to note when it comes to this revenue growth rate is that a lot of the semiconductor industry, you know, it's really tied also to the CapEx cycle of mega corporations, obviously the S&P 500. And what I mean by that is you do have periods where there is a lot of capital investment in the infrastructure of those businesses. That could be semiconductor replacing computers. And you normally see an increase in capital expenditure in the S&P 500, which ultimately drives the high revenue numbers for companies like Intel, Nvidia, AMD. And then once you go through that capital investment cycle, then it kind of stays at a high point and then begins to decline because they've already replaced all of their equipment for the next 5 years. And then you might get to see a decline in revenue. And then that cycle picks up again. It's the same thing when you're looking at Apple. Every 3 years, they come out with an entire brand new phone. So once they have that new phone, revenue picks up, and then 2 years later, revenue declines to single digit. It's because of that replacement cycle. And that's something that I will point out here as well. That could be part of the reason why these revenues might decline in the later years of your model. Is that something that you came across when you were doing your due diligence as well, or no?
I was thinking more towards Nvidia and how they're just kind of a larger corporation and not really replacing a lot of these GPUs, for example. I didn't really think about that, but that's actually really a good point.
Okay. Yeah, you normally come across those things once you become an industry analyst that you specialize in it. And with years of experience, you get to see that there's cycles within markets, within the economy, within different sector. And then you could go even deeper into that and understanding what's the dollar cost per unit, or the dollar cost based on the amount of pounds that goes into creating all of these semiconductors and chips. So then you really begin to go into the economics of manufacturing these semiconductors. That's more at the deeper level when you have 5 years of industry experience and you really specialize on this industry. So I think that's an insight to you, but other members of the community and obviously the public to understand that once you really get to understand this, you need to break down the entire economic model of NVIDIA and understand these unit numbers. Because if it costs NVIDIA more money to buy all of their supplies, the raw materials to make their products, then you can expect that their margins, their profits is going to decline. So there's a lot of moving pieces that you have to keep your eye out on. Now let me look here at your margins, adjusted EBITDA. Wow, really? 50%?
Yeah, and I was actually looking at the research reports that I had and the Wall Street estimates, and this is kind of in line of what they are also projecting.
Really?
Yeah, super high EBITDA and also adjusted EBITDA for this company.
Semiconductors, I would not expect this.
I feel like Nvidia is super known for their semiconductors, for these products. It's really what it is completely based on. So I'm not too shocked about it.
Yeah. I would probably like to see the breakdown of that revenue, because for them to have such high margins, they have to have some sort of content or service where they just recurring revenue for a service. Because this is very high margins. NVIDIA semiconductor? I was not expecting that. Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so here's the breakdown. Okay, so you have gaming, professional visualization, data center, autonomous, OEM, other, mix up of that. So that gaming. Now, when you talk about, okay, so explain to me a little bit more about the gaming. Is that a subscription-based model separate from developing and selling the hardware of the graphic cards? Is the gaming do they have their own gaming on their own platform that is on a subscription-based model?
No, it is really the processing chips that they use in PCs. It's not really a model based. They don't really have a platform where gamers can, let's say, for example, stream. It's really just the hardware.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. I would think that that's what they would have if they have such high margins. Okay. I will have to look at NVIDIA a little bit closer myself to familiarize myself with this business model, because that margin, it's very high for a semiconductor company. Now, in terms of your valuation, I see here the margins, but then here we have lower margins on an LTM basis. Okay, so this is what I mean. So 34.9 versus the industry, but when you're forecasting it, it's much higher than that. So that's why I would check a little bit more into that to see if those margins are in line with what the street is expecting. But you were looking at adjusted EBITDA margins, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then the adjusted level could be a little bit higher. So we could double check that a little bit, but that's all right for now. Let's come here. Let's look at your DCF analysis. Okay, and here's your valuation. Okay, and I see your bullish case 800.
Yeah.
What would need to happen for the stock to hit 800?
So I feel like Nvidia is already well versed in a lot of these emerging tech industries, but I feel like if we want to hit that 800 price target, a lot more has got to happen within these industries. I feel like maybe big news on maybe more crypto mining softwares or more chips or just more innovative tech for Nvidia. They're already like leading in a lot of these fields. However, I feel like if we want to reach that 800, they might have to come out with a whole new product, for example, or maybe even have a bigger collaboration. Let's say, for example, the US government has been looking a lot towards blockchain and crypto. Maybe if they had a collaboration with our government, that could definitely help Nvidia.
Okay. Now let's take a quick look at the chart to perform some technical analysis here. Okay, so we definitely, well, first let's look at it from a bigger standpoint, which is on a weekly, and let's see if we change it to a monthly. Wow, I mean, we can definitely see the first wave to the upside, which really started back in 2016, and it ended around this is almost the third quarter of 2018, major decline, market correction, and then it started a second wave to the upside. And now it's breaking all-time highs, right? It got out of that. Now, if we zoom in a little bit more to the daily, you can see exactly what's happening. So they're hanging around all-time highs. They bounce off the 200-day moving average line. And if you are bullish the stock, if you were an analyst or someone that has been tracking this one, this could have been a tactical entry level at the 200-day moving average line, having the information, doing your own analysis, and perhaps being bullish on the stock. This could have provided a key tactical point to enter it. The other one, of course, is breaking resistance or all-time highs that you're seeing right here. And we're having a slight pullback. And of course, that's with the overall market. The NASDAQ is trading around all-time high. I think the main catalyst right now is earnings, right? First quarter earnings, which is already underway. I know financial sector started to lead the way with earnings. And with your price target, it actually hit your price target, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Which is why I mentioned like the second price target of 710. And also that was in line with the bullish case that RBC had. They had a price target of 700. So
so then there's two scenarios playing out here, or perhaps maybe three. So we have a slight pullback, lighter volume, right? You can see the large accumulation from institutional investors, right? That increase, maybe it could be share buyback. Does Nvidia have their own share buyback program?
I'm not too sure about that. I haven't seen that at all, but I'm not too sure.
Okay, so it could be big institutional buying the stock and maybe anticipating another move to the upside where it takes it to 700 or maybe 800, right? That could be, let's say 700 to 800, right? This could be scenario number one. And it could probably be your bullish case as well. Mm-hmm. Or if it comes back into this channel, right? And something happens within the economy, supply chain disruption, any negative piece of information that can cause the stock to come down back to this support area. That would be scenario number two. And scenario number three could just be that it hangs out here in this range for quite some time until we get some piece of information as a catalyst to take it higher or lower. So these are the three scenarios that I might see on this stock. I think they've had a major run, of course, coming out of COVID last year, right? Breaking this area over here. right? And also around the 200-day moving average line for those that were longer term bulls on this stock. Okay, good, good. Any final thoughts or comments on this?
I'm super excited for Nvidia, and it is one of the companies that I really like because I'm super interested in crypto and blockchain tech. So I personally like the company a lot.
All right, good, good. And again, for those of you that are watching this video, this is meant for educational purposes. Obviously, this is the level of skill set that our student analysts are developing in Romero Mentoring in our analyst program. But it's meant for you to show you that there's a lot more analysis and research and understanding a company and an industry that goes behind making an investment decision. So I hope this information is useful. I hope you find value in it. And with that being said, thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.